love to introduce my colleague, Mark McGranahan. Mark's a principal with AY's San Francisco office, an attorney and an accountant. And Mark has over 30 years of real estate practice experience, resulting in more than 8 million square feet of leases in San Francisco, Oakland, and in the Bay Area. Mark has worked as a real estate provider in multi-market transactions for Delta Dental, Wells Fargo, Keenan and Associates, Broadcom, as well as large landlord clients including Jamestown, Boston Properties, Prologis, Kilroy, Barings, and others. Mark will be joined by Brian Stromquist for a lively conversation around the future of technology clients, particularly here in the Bay Area. As Gensler's firm-wide practice leader for technology workplace design, Brian draws upon his background in architecture, research to develop workplace solutions for technology companies across the globe. His work has been published in Fast Company and Politico, and his recent speaking engagements include NeoCon, ULI, and AIA. Together, Mark and Brian will explore trends around spaces technology firms are leasing and why, and how we can position spaces to make them more desirable, including the emerging AI cohort. Welcome, Mark and Brian.
Thank you, Dina.
Yes, thank you, Dina. What a great introduction. I was waiting for the applause in the background. I guess we didn't get that, so we'll have to bake that in for next year. Thank you. So we had a couple thought ideas that we've been working on, and I'll try to throw them out to Brian, and we'll try to riff back and forth on this. So the first thing that I wanted to try to address is 4 years ago, before COVID, we had all these tech companies in San Francisco, and it was just this mad dash for space. And everybody's trying to cram as many humans as possible. And everybody got this desk and they put their earphones on. Here we are 4 years later, COVID's over. People are not really returning to the office in great numbers, at least not in San Francisco. What are you seeing people doing when they do come back to the office, or what are you designing? Obviously, you have a lot of insights with companies, especially big tech companies like Facebook. So maybe as a primer, just start with what are you seeing in today's market?
Great question. Still seeing a lot of navigation of what hybrid work means for tech and really all of these industries. Right, even 4 years in, there's not a sort of consistent approach to this. Some companies are still figuring out what their policies are. Others are figuring out how to implement them. Others are figuring out how to enforce them. And I think that's what's causing this kind of confusion or that disconnect between 2019 and 2024. And that means that a lot of them are figuring out their space needs and density needs as well.
So you think it's still squishy though? I mean, I feel like by this time people go like, this is what I need, and I'm gonna go do it. But yet the sentiment as a broker, when I talk to people, I'm not quite sure. So do you feel like we're getting on more solid ground, or is it still a little unsettling and people are trying to figure it out?
I think it's still settling in. And it's really a sort of companies on a case-by-case basis looking still at the reasons why people want to come in. And we know from our workplace survey results that there's a preference for hybrid work across all industries and sort of tech first and foremost. And it's really to come in to focus on your work, whether it's sort of collaborative work or focused work. And then it's then about finding the right ecosystem that supports all of those modes.
Terrific. Well, I thought maybe we'd spend just a little bit of time. You can see in the background, we're in Gensler's space, so hopefully you can see through the window. And we were
real employees, not models.
Yeah, exactly. We were fortunate enough to help your company move from traditional high rise on 3 floors of space, and then you transitioned to an older building where everybody's on 1 floor of space, and you took 10,000 less square feet, but you have roughly the same employees. Maybe we could use that as a backdrop to talk about what these new trends are. I know you have a couple slides that might be illustrate kind of how you're doing it. Mm-hmm. I do think that's a good, I've heard great things from other people who've walked your space, like that's what we need to be doing more like that. And so this would be maybe a good way to show the people how you did it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Gensler, especially this office, like a lot of the tech clients we work with, are looking at ways of inspiring people to come into the office versus sort of coercion. And I think, you know, in the work that we've done in the last 4 years and the work that we've done on ourselves, it happens in 2 ways. One is about creating a buzz that gets people excited. Like, what's that experience that you walk into?
Not a burrito buzz, like a burrito's not enough anymore, right?
No, I mean, you need kind of this hospitality driven, slightly noisier, slightly energetic thing that aligns with your expectation of coming into the office, right? A lot of Gensler and a lot of our clients have had, pretty strong messaging efforts about like why the office is important and why we should be together. And you want an alignment between your arrival experience and the sort of expectation built through that messaging. So that was important to us here. And the other is an abundance of space, an abundance of working points, right? As you come in, knowing that even if you show up at 11 a.m., there's a space for you or a work point for you that's aligned with how you want to work. So we have a lot more variety in here. So even though it's a little bit less space, there's more variety and places to work.
Okay, well, I think you have a floor plan and some photos. Maybe if we just run through that, that might illustrate how's it working for you and why this is successful.
Yeah, so just taking a look, this is our reception experience.
It looks like the proper hotel, by the way. It doesn't look like a reception.
And again, that's like consistent with Gensler workplace survey results, right? And looking at the vibe of what people want across all industries in their office. The sort of consistent generational story was something that felt like a boutique hotel, right? From like Gen Z to boomers. This was sort of where everyone had this great alignment. Something you walk in, it feels comfortable, it supports work, and it has that energy that inspires you as you walk in. So if we look at the plan, you sort of enter into the space, right? We're in this sort of gorgeous historic building.
San Francisco, we could hear it outside.
You have the sirens outside. Yeah, we're very much connected to the city here. And that's kind of part of your entry experience as well. We're here in the Mills building, old exchange building. You walk into that orange zone, which is really that hospitality driven space, plenty of co-working areas. And then it's sort of divided into these different work zones. So you have the hall there in the middle in purple, and that has a mix of workstations. It has a mix of open collaboration areas. And then finally, as you move to the back, we have the lodge, and that's where you really have these deep focus spaces.
Gotcha.
And it's kind of amazing, even in our office of 250 people, everyone can find a space that's sort of best aligned with how they want to work here. And for me, this is hot off the press. This is me working in every single zone.
Look
This
at
is
that.
just, yes. From up front to way back, I'm sort of the model of how you can use this space in the most versatile way possible.
So this is like going to a buffet. You know you're hungry, but you're not quite sure what to eat. So you can have different choices depending upon, what you're trying to collaborate with somebody or what your mood is, or I got to read something, don't bother me at zone versus, hey, I want to hang out and see if I can bump into some people and think about new ideas.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. So this is just sort of what some of these spaces look like. This is way back there in the vault. And you have these like almost library carrels where you can pop in, do super deep focus work. The finishes kind of all support that as well. Dark finishes, acoustic absorptive finishes. Here's one of those sort of more co-working areas. This is right there in the corner. This is
dog too.
We have the dog. Oh yeah, we have Gensler's first ever dog policy. Yeah, so long as your dog is under 50 pounds.
We've learned that lesson.
Welcomed here, yes. And then this is that hall space in the middle that was shown in purple. And this has been perhaps the most interesting use case here in that people didn't quite know what to do with it in the beginning. And it's since become this place for exploration, right? As we figure out what hybrid work means for us and for our tech tenants, kind of using this open collaboration space to explore some new technologies and explore some new ways of working. So now these are really vibrant sunlit space. We have that great skylight there in the middle. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
People love it.
Yeah, I love this space. Every time you walk down the middle, you see everything on those large boards and you see people, moving around them and pointing and talking. And it's just a really energetic space, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm. And tech plays a lot into that as well. I mean, this is sort of this is kind of like the demonstration of the promise of tech for hybrid meetings. For each of these, there's a specific catchment area for the ceiling mounted microphones. So you can have multiple meetings going on here and sort of have the privacy of sort of these individual settings.
Well, maybe that's a good segue to the next question I had, because everybody feels like hybrid is here to stay, your surveys and everybody else's survey. I make the argument, we already work in hybrid. If you went in San Francisco after 12 o'clock on a Friday, there was nobody there anyways. So now that we've accepted that, there's this challenge of like today, right? We're in the office here, we have people on screen. Is technology catching up, or is there things that you see on the horizon that might be interesting? Because I do feel, at least selfishly in the meetings I'm at, when I'm not in the room, I don't really feel like I'm part of the conversation, which is a challenge, which hopefully will drive more people back to the office, which is good for us. But knowing that, where do you see, or what have you seen recently that's trying to bring those two worlds together more seamlessly?
I think we're at a great arrival point, right after like 4 years of hand wringing of like, how are we going to manage hybrid meetings? We've found a way to align technology, sort of cameras and microphones and furniture, in a way that supports the different meeting modes that we've known all along, right? For 10, 20 years, we know there's, kind of casual collaboration, formal presentation, something in the middle. And it was making sure that the technology in these sort of enclosed meeting rooms and these open collaboration areas align with those work modes or those meeting modes, and sort of making sure that works seamlessly. So if you can walk into a room like this and be like, oh, we're going to be presenting in a hybrid meeting, the cameras know, the mics know sort of how to set that up.
Got it.
And I think that requires practice, which is the thing that people don't realize. With a lot of our clients, they expect to sort of walk into their hybrid offices of the future,
right,
and like intuitively understand how to use everything. Where like
it takes training, right?
It takes training, right? Like
people like me just can't walk in and press one button. You have to really know which buttons to press and have it come together.
Yeah, and it makes sense, right? It's true for all sorts of other industries and aspects of our world. Like it's almost like sports, right? You have to train to have like something that's really performing for you. And it doesn't take a lot of training, but it does take a little front end effort to sort of make this work. And then once it's working, you have these really fantastic experiences.
And I noticed you spent a lot of time at Neocon and spoke there. I felt like the furniture industry was a step behind. Have they caught up? Because I have gone to Steelcase's office recently in LA, and a lot of the furniture is now, it's not the traditional conference table, right? Now the furniture is designed in almost an arc shape to the TV. So those hybrid meetings make more sense, right? You're speaking where people can see each other as opposed to, seeing the back of my head is not very exciting.
Yeah, totally. And that again aligns with how this hybrid tech is operating, right? If you have a camera that's sort of panning around a room such that someone participating remotely can get a sense of what's going on in there, a table set up like that works a lot better than your sort of like traditional conference table where people get obstructed and eclipsed. So it's a really cool furniture alignment with that tech as well.
Okay, well, let's pivot because we only have a couple more minutes to the landlord side of the business, right? So in a lot of the buildings around San Francisco, and I'm sure this is same across the California, across the country, there seems to be this arms race for how do I amenitize my building, right? So everybody's got a bike room. Very few people really ride their bikes, but it feels good to have a bike room. Like, where's the market going for really more interesting or more valuable types of amenities that if there's landlords there that might have this aha moment besides a bike room and a shower? What else could one think about? And then we got a couple potential slides too.
Yeah, and we can flip through some of these as well. I have a couple examples here, and we'll get into these in a second. But it really is about convenience amenities, right? If you're coming into the office and commuting into the office again, it's amenities that make up basically, crassly put, for the time spent commuting, right? All those things like the mundane stuff, like going to the pharmacy and like picking up kids or bringing your dog in, that have kind of risen to the top. And this was kind of aligned with what Dina showed in her slides, that it's not kind of these sexy amenities, it's these more practical ones. You don't need a gym, but you do need things that sort of speak more to convenience.
Right, and
And outdoor space, which I
Yeah.
think Dina had in there as well.
exactly. So maybe let's flip through a couple of the slides. Maybe that will give some people some ideas. I do sense the buzzword today is hospitality, right?
Uh-huh.
Don't make it feel like an office, make it feel like an extension of your home, or you're going to a place that, you know, has this openness and inviting, as opposed to give me a 20-foot marble wall with a fancy picture on it, and I walk by a guard who maybe waves to you.
Yeah. And I think this Uber project in Chicago, this is for Uber Freight, is a good example of that. This was sort of both a Gensler building repositioning project of the old post office there, and a complete build out for Uber, sort of within a huge floor. I think it's like 3 football fields long.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big floor. And from an amenity perspective, it's about those hospitality-driven amenities first and foremost. It's about celebrating the architectural character of the building, which is true for what we're doing here as well, right? Where even the old like mail chutes become the center spine of the interconnecting stair.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so you're kind of connected to the history of the building in a way that feels more purpose-driven than something, you know, feels disconnected from the sort of building or city in which it's located. Again, there's, much like this office, an abundance of space. You always have a work point. I guess when you have a floor plate that huge, it's kind of easy. And to Dina's point, it's the outdoor space that is the really valued amenity here, or one of the two really valued.
And I love the basketball court. I mean,
Mhm.
everybody's got the proverbial outdoor space, which is a bench, but having something more seems to be, you know, where people need to press forward in a more stronger, more meaningful fashion.
And then, yeah, this is a blend of workspace. You can collaborate out here. You can play basketball, but you're not like sweating next to someone in a spinning studio. So this is kind of the amenity that people enjoy these days.
Yeah.
The other unexpected one, there's a Walgreens on the ground floor. So this is one of those kind of mundane convenience amenities. And this place is bumping always. You walk into this building, and I've been in there a few times now. The ground floor lobby is activated because you have this, because of a Walgreens there. It's become almost like a social hub in the building. And then sort of, yeah, similar story. Sort of, we redid one of the buildings in the Coke headquarters in Atlanta based on similar research to what we had sort of done for ourselves. And it gamed out in these similar sort of outdoor spaces. So they were really focused on these mid-door.
Interconnected, they took out some of the axle space so you could see down, creating atriums.
Yeah.
And make it more inviting so people can mix around with each other.
Yeah, this is sort of the fresh take on room with a view.
This is a cool one. This is maybe a good place for us to end.
Yeah, and they were able to sort of strip out part of the sort of building envelope to create this mid-door space, which has become the most utilized space in the building.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
the
awesome.
photography doesn't tell the story, but you're out there, great Atlanta weather, looking out on the skyline, and people love doing productive work out here.
Sure. Well, thank you, Brian. This was really informative. Jeff, I know we want to stay on schedule. It's almost 9:30. So if there's any questions, please put them in the Q&A. We'd love to talk to you. And if we don't have enough time at the end of this, we're certainly happy to reach out if you leave your contact information. So thanks again for letting us be part of this great presentation.
Yeah, thanks everyone.